How to survive a heart attack alone after 60. 7 life-saving tips every senior must know. Imagine this. You're at home, just an ordinary evening like any other. There's no one beside you, no phone within reach, no doctor nearby, no ambulance on the way, no neighbor knocking on your door. And then, your heart suddenly begins to beat out of rhythm. You feel a tightening in your chest, not too strong at first, just a subtle squeeze. A sudden rush of cold sweat runs down your body. Your breathing becomes shallow and rapid. You try to stand, but your legs feel weak and unsteady. And in that exact moment, it dawns on you with chilling clarity. You are having a heart attack. Alone. Do you know what will determine whether you survive or not? It is not luck. It is not your age. It is the actions you take in the next 3 minutes that make the difference between life and death. The real question is, has anyone ever taught you what to do in that situation? In this video, I will show you 7 simple, practical, and scientifically proven steps that can save your life, especially for those over 60, people who live alone, or anyone who worries that one day that unthinkable moment might suddenly become reality. And I promise you this, the final step is something almost no one ever considers, but it might very well be the single reason you stay alive. So, if your heart decides to send you a warning one day, will you know how to respond? Recognize the warning signs. Do not wait until it is too late. There's a strange paradox about heart attacks. We all assume we will recognize it instantly, a sharp, crushing pain in the chest, just like in the movies. But in reality, it often arrives more like a faint knock at the door, subtle and easily ignored, before it quietly slips away. By the time you finally realize what is happening, it may already be too late. Have you ever woken up in the morning feeling unusually tired, a heaviness pressing on your chest, struggling to take a deep breath, but dismissed it as simply part of aging? Have you ever had a day when your left arm felt slightly numb, or your stomach felt uncomfortably full, and you brushed it off as just having eaten too much at lunch? These are heart attacks in disguise, masked under everyday symptoms, and countless people have overlooked them.
Richard, a 74-year-old retired electrician living alone in Ohio, was starting his day like any other. That morning, as he sipped his coffee, he noticed a strange pressure beneath his collarbone. It wasn't pain, it wasn't sharp, just unusual. Then he realized his hand was beginning to sweat, and his breathing was getting shorter with each passing minute. Most people in that situation would simply keep drinking their coffee, brushing it off as nothing. But Richard had once read about warning signs like these. And more importantly, he trusted his gut instinct. He picked up the phone and called emergency services. The response team arrived in just 8 minutes, just in time to begin treatment. His doctor later told him that if he had waited even 10 minutes longer, his heart might have stopped beating altogether. So what made the difference between survival and tragedy in Richard's case? It was his ability to notice the subtle yet critically important signals, that vague pressure in the chest as if a heavy weight were pressing down, that odd discomfort radiating into the left arm, or sometimes the right. Pain that spreads into the shoulders, the upper back, the jaw, or even feels like nothing more than indigestion or fullness in the stomach. And perhaps most alarming, the sensation of being short of breath even while sitting still, as if you had just climbed a flight of stairs. These are the alarm bells that should never be ignored. For older adults, the warning signs can be even more deceptive. Sometimes it isn't obvious chest pain at all. It might be nothing more than a persistent fatigue without any clear reason, or simply the nagging sense that something isn't right. But here's the truth. Intuition, does not lie. Have you ever felt something strange, unexplainable, and decided to dismiss it? Could that moment have been a warning your body was sending, one you chose not to hear? If you have ever doubted yourself but continued to push through anyway, then what comes next is for you. Because right after this, I will reveal the very first action you must take the moment you sense something unusual in your body, even if it seems small. Are you ready?
2. Call emergency services. Do not hesitate. The very first thing many people do when they notice strange or unusual symptoms is try to ignore them. They wait, they drink some water, they tell themselves, maybe I'm just overreacting. But do you know what kills more people than the heart attack itself? Hesitation. Take Linda, for example. She was 68, a retired nurse who had cared for countless patients in her career. One ordinary afternoon, while folding laundry, she suddenly felt a sharp pain radiating from her chest up into her neck. She froze, paying attention to her body. Her pulse was racing, cold sweat broke out across her forehead, and her left hand began to tremble slightly. But she did not call anyone. She waited 20 long minutes until she could no longer breathe. By the time emergency responders arrived, she was already in critical condition. Her doctor later said that if she had called the moment she noticed the first signs, the outcome would have been entirely different. I know you've probably heard this before. Don't call 911 unless you're absolutely sure. But here's the truth. If you're over 60, if you have a history of high blood pressure, diabetes, or high cholesterol, then suspicion alone is reason enough to call. Why? Because 911 is not just a phone number, it is your lifeline. Paramedics don't simply drive you to the hospital. They arrive with defibrillators, nitroglycerin, oxygen, and the training to begin treatment right there in your home. And most importantly, they can reach you much faster than any family member or friend. Too many people think, I don't want to bother anyone, or worse, I'll just drive myself to the hospital. But do you realize what driving while having a heart attack really means? You turn yourself into a ticking time bomb on the road. A single fainting episode behind the wheel could end not only your life, but also the lives of innocent people around you. So if you feel even the slightest sign that something is wrong, do the one thing that could save your life. Call 911. Immediately. Don't wait, don't question, don't apologize for overreacting. Because in those minutes, action matters more than certainty. Now ask yourself, if you live alone, where is your phone right now? Is it always within reach? Have you saved your emergency contacts so you don't waste time searching? Have you ever stopped to wonder, if that day came, would I actually press the call button in time? And let's say 911 is already on the way, but you still don't feel safe. What should you do while waiting for help to arrive? The answer may surprise you, because the very thing that could save your life is likely already in your home, sitting quietly in a drawer or on a shelf, waiting for you to use it.
3. Aspirin, the tiny lifesaver. There is a small item sitting quietly in the kitchen cabinets of millions of American households, no bigger than the tip of your finger, that has saved more lives than we will ever know. It is not a blood pressure pill. It is not a heart monitor. It is a single aspirin tablet. When a heart attack strikes, the problem isn't only in the heart itself. It begins with a blood clot, a blockage that stops blood from reaching the heart muscle. Without oxygen, the heart cells start to die, second by second. But when aspirin is chewed immediately, it acts as a powerful blood thinner, preventing the clot from growing larger and buying you precious extra minutes until emergency responders arrive. Take Joe, for example. He was 66 years old and had spent his life working in construction. One evening, while watching TV, he suddenly felt a crushing pressure in his chest, as though someone were pressing a heavy weight against him. He didn't panic. He didn't waste time calling for his wife. Instead, he did exactly what he had once heard in a video like this. He reached for a 325 milligram aspirin, chewed it, not swallowed whole, and then called 911. When the paramedics arrived, Joe was still conscious. At the hospital, the doctor told him that his decision to chew that aspirin was what carried him safely through the most dangerous stage of the heart attack. Did you notice the key detail? Joe chewed the aspirin. He did not swallow it whole. That distinction is critical. Chewing allows the medicine to enter the bloodstream much faster, making it far more effective in an emergency. And the best type to use is plain, non-enteric-coated aspirin at a dose of 325 milligrams. If you don't have that, 4 baby aspirin tablets of 81 milligrams each will work as well. Now let me ask you, do you have aspirin at home, within easy reach? Is it in a place where you or even a partially conscious person could grab it? Have you reminded your loved ones, especially anyone over the age of 60, to keep it ready at hand? Remember this, you may only have a few minutes to act, and you might not get a second chance to make the call. So why not let a simple aspirin tablet be the silent guardian protecting your heart? But here's something you need to know. Once you've called emergency services and chewed the aspirin, what you do next matters just as much. Because there is one common mistake made by countless people that can make a heart attack twice as deadly. Do you know what that mistake is?
4. Keep your body still. Do you know what the irony is? After calling emergency services and chewing an aspirin, many people make the mistake of trying to do more. They get up to grab a glass of water. They walk to unlock the door. They check the locks. They look for their phone or insurance papers. But every step, every hurried breath taken in fear puts added stress on the heart. And with a heart already starved of oxygen, that extra effort can be the final drop that makes the bucket overflow. Alice, a 72-year-old from Florida, experienced this firsthand. She was cooking dinner one evening when she suddenly felt chest tightness and dizziness. She did the right thing. She called 911 immediately. But while waiting, she panicked and rushed into the bedroom to grab her insurance documents. Just as she reached the doorway, she collapsed on the floor. It took nearly 4 minutes before a neighbor heard the noise, discovered her, and called the paramedics again. Her doctor later explained that if Alice had simply stayed seated, her condition might have remained far more stable until help arrived. During a heart attack, your heart is like an engine that is already overheating. Every movement, walking, climbing stairs, even talking too much, is like pouring gasoline on that fire. What you need to do is slow the heart rate, ease the workload on the heart muscle, and conserve every breath as fuel for survival. The safest thing is to sit or recline in the most comfortable position possible. Ideally, this means resting at a 45-degree angle, head slightly elevated, back supported firmly against a chair or cushion. Do not stand. Do not bend forward. Do not attempt to move around. And if someone else is with you, tell them clearly, do not drive you to the hospital in their own car. It sounds simple, but here's the challenge. Can you really do this in a moment of panic? Your body will scream at you to move, to run, to fight, but your heart is begging you for stillness. The question is, will you have the self-control to resist your instinct and stay calm when it matters most? And here's another problem. Let's say you do remain still, but you live alone. The door is locked. No one knows what's happening inside. How will the paramedics get in quickly to save you? The exact answer to that question lies in the next step, and it may be the one detail that determines whether help reaches you in time or whether no one reaches you at all. 5. Unlock the door and prepare. Here is something almost no one ever thinks about until it's already too late. Your front door is locked and you are unconscious inside. The rescue team arrives. Their ambulance pulls up right in front of your house. They knock. They call your name. No response. Minutes slip away as they try to locate a family member, minutes more as they radio back to dispatch, and if they still cannot gain entry, they may have no choice but to break down the door, or worse, they may have to leave, because in many places they are not legally allowed to force entry without confirmation of an emergency. Those lost minutes might be the only minutes you do not have. Paul, a 70-year-old widower, was meticulous, organized, and cautious by nature, and that simple habit saved his life. After his wife passed away, he lived alone, but he installed a small lockbox outside his door, placed a spare key inside, and gave the code to his local emergency response service. One night, he woke up struggling to breathe and dialed 911. 6 minutes later, the ambulance arrived. Within 10 seconds, the responders had opened his door using the code, and they began administering medication right there on his sofa. Paul survived his heart attack without the delay, damage, or destruction that might have occurred if his rescuers had needed to break in. Do you see the point? Sometimes survival doesn't depend on medicine, it depends on preparation. So let me ask you, do you live alone? How many locks are on your door right now? Do you have emergency contact information posted near the entrance? Do you keep a medical ID on your refrigerator or wear a medical alert bracelet listing your conditions? And if you use a smartphone, have you enabled the medical ID feature so that first responders can see your critical health information without needing your passcode? Can someone pick up your phone and call for help if you are unresponsive? Remember this, a heart attack does not give you time to prepare. It tests you only on the preparations you have already made. The question is, have you set up your home to be easy to reach in a crisis, or will it turn into a locked fortress at the very moment you need rescuing the most? And even if you have already called 911, chewed the aspirin, stayed still, and unlocked your door, there is still one more power you hold in your own hands: your breath. Do you want to know why breathing in the right way might be the final shield that keeps you conscious until the ambulance arrives? 6. Use your smartphone the right way. There's something many people don't realize. Even if you are unconscious, your phone can still help save your life. Today's smartphones are not just for calls, texts, or reading the news. When set up correctly, they can act as your emergency spokesperson, sharing your medical information, dialing the right numbers, even showing your exact location, all at a time when you may not be able to say a single word. Take Susan, for example. She was 63 and living alone after undergoing heart surgery 2 years earlier. One morning, while tending to her garden, she suddenly felt dizzy and collapsed near a stone bench. A passerby quickly called 911. When paramedics arrived, they knew nothing about her medical history until they unlocked her phone and saw the medical ID already set up. Cardiovascular disease, on blood-thinning medication, no allergies, emergency contact, daughter, number attached. Because of that, they treated her correctly, contacted the right person, and had her admitted to the hospital in less than 20 minutes. If Susan hadn't set up that feature, doctors might have given her the wrong medication. Her daughter might not have known until much later, and the outcome could have been tragically different. So let me ask you, have you ever checked whether your own phone has medical ID enabled? If you use an iPhone, it's simple. Just go into the Health app, select Medical ID, fill in your information, and turn on Show When Locked. On Android, look under Emergency Information in your settings. It costs nothing. It takes only a few minutes, but it can mean the difference between life and death when you cannot speak for yourself. And there's more. Have you set up your emergency shortcut? On many phones, you can press the power button 5 times to automatically dial 911. Imagine if you dropped your phone, couldn't open the screen, or couldn't type your passcode. That quick motion might be the last action you were able to take, and it could save you. Are you certain that you or your parents know how to use these features? Have you ever checked your phone right after watching a video like this, only to forget about it the next day?
Don't let that happen again. Remember, during a heart attack, you won't have time to scroll through menus or type in passwords. The settings you prepare today may be the final words your body cannot say. And once you've called 911, stayed still, unlocked the door, and set up your phone, there is still one more tool you always carry with you: your breath. It doesn't need a prescription, it doesn't cost a dime, and yet it might be the most powerful medicine you can use to keep your heart alive in those 2 critical minutes before help arrives. Do you want to know the right way to breathe so you can steady your heartbeat, reduce pain, and buy yourself precious time while waiting for emergency care?
7. Breathing the right way, your final shield. When everything feels like it's spinning out of control, when your chest feels as though a heavy weight is pressing down on it, when your heartbeat is racing and fear threatens to overwhelm your mind, there is still one thing you can control: your breath. Did you know that breathing in the right way can help stabilize your heart rhythm, lower blood pressure, calm your sympathetic nervous system, and extend the survival time of an injured heart? Frank, age 67, a former military serviceman, knew how to stay focused in emergencies. But nothing terrified him more than the sudden chest pain that struck while he was alone in his kitchen. He dialed 911, but dizziness washed over him as he waited. At that moment, he remembered the breathing exercise he had been taught during cardiac rehabilitation. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 2 seconds, exhale for 6 seconds. He repeated the cycle steadily, closing his eyes, listening to his heartbeat, and keeping his body still. By the time paramedics arrived, he was still conscious and his blood pressure had risen only slightly. His doctor later explained that the steady breathing rhythm helped maintain blood flow, protected his heart muscle, and prevented further damage. You might be thinking, breathing? Everyone knows how to breathe. But here's the problem. When panic strikes, most people breathe the wrong way. They breathe fast and shallow, which increases strain on the heart. When you deliberately slow your breathing, you send a message to your body, "I am still in control," and your body responds by calming down. The 4-6 breathing exercise is simple but powerful. Try it with me right now. Breathe in through your nose, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 1, 2. Breathe out slowly, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Do you notice the difference in how your body feels?
You can practice this every morning. Make it a daily habit, so that if one day, though we all hope it never comes, your heart needs one more chance, you are ready to give it the most life-saving breath it could ask for. So let me ask you, is your breathing working for you or against you? And now, if you've learned how to breathe, how to unlock the door, how to call, how to stay still, how to chew aspirin, how to recognize the signs, you are ready for the most important part, the summary, the moment of empowerment, the life map you will carry in your memory forever. Because you have just walked through 7 steps. Not just quick tips, but a complete survival script designed for your heart in its most fragile and unexpected moment. And now, pause with me. Take one deep, slow breath. What do you feel? Imagine it once more. You are at home, alone. No one knows that you just felt a strange pain radiating up into your neck. But instead of panicking, you recognize the warning sign. You dial 911 immediately. You take an aspirin and chew it slowly, just as you practiced. You sit down, keeping your body completely still, doing nothing that would force your heart to work harder. You unlock the front door so the emergency team won't be delayed when they arrive. You use your smartphone as a life-saving tool, leaving behind the information you cannot speak out loud. And then you breathe, slowly and steadily, as if each breath were a rope holding you back from the edge of the cliff. This is not a fantasy. This is what you have just learned. And one day, either you or someone you love may depend on each of these exact steps to stay alive. Remember these 7 rules. Listen to your body, even the smallest warning sign. Call emergency services immediately. No hesitation, no delay. Chew aspirin at once, unless you have a medical contraindication. Sit or lie still. Do not move or try to drive yourself. Unlock the door and leave emergency information visible. Set up a medical ID on your phone so others can help even if you can't speak. Breathe correctly to keep your mind calm and your heart alive. Now, think carefully. Which of these steps have you never heard before? Which one are you least prepared for right now? Share your answer in the comments, not only to help you remember, but also so others can learn the one thing that might one day save their life. Because if you've made it this far, it means you care. And caring is the very first step to survival. But don't keep this to yourself. Send this video to your parents, to the 70-year-old neighbor who lives alone, to the friend with high blood pressure who always brushes off fatigue as nothing. Because one day, it may be them or you facing that critical moment, alone in a quiet house with a heart crying out for help. And if, in that moment, what you've learned today rises to the surface like a reflex, then you may have just given yourself, or someone you love, the chance to live many more years. So here is the final question I want to leave you with. If tomorrow were the day your heart gave out, have you truly prepared yourself today?